Howdy on Gay Godzilla Movie Marathon, where we're stomping through Godzilla's filmography. I'm Derek, and I've seen all the Godzilla movies.
And I'm Doug, and I've seen 18 Godzilla movies and a robot monkey.
Yeah, and today we're returning to the eighth wonder of the world with the fourth ever King Kong movie and the second Toho film to feature King Kong Escapes, also known as King Kong no Gyakushu, which translates to King Kong's Counterattack. They love sequels with the name Counterattack over there in Japan.
It's good.
It's good. This was released in Japan on July 22nd, 1967, directed by Ishiro Honda, with director of special effects Eiji Tsuburaya, written by Takeshi Kimura, with a story by Arthur Rankin Jr., produced by Tomoyuki Tanaka and Arthur Rankin Jr., and a score by Akira Ifukube. Of course, I'd like to take a quick moment to thank our spectacular patrons, Bo, Carl, Katie, Jason, Zoe, James, Keith, Cody, Toby, Hamish, Troido Power, Blake, Thorn of Camor, Jace, Joe Jack, and David.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And it's an ape. It's an ape. I know it's an ape. Nobody at me. It's an ape.
Yeah. And we're not alone today. We got a returning guest, Hamish Steele.
Well, hi.
Hi.
How are you? Why are we doing a movie about gorillas? I think they're dull.
Incredible.
Oh my God.
Incredible.
I definitely popped on the mic just then. I'm very sorry.
I do all the time. You're fine. Don't worry.
I am very happy to be here. It's very interesting. I mean, I kind of invite myself to the show, but
That's fine. That's what you got to do. That's what you got to do. It's fine.
But you sent me a list of films you hadn't done haven't done yet. It's funny, if you just asked me, this is not necessarily the film that I would have instantly suggested, but I love this film. Mm-hmm. I've seen it multiple times. I've seen it in theaters. I have merch from this film. Ooh. It's definitely a favorite of mine, and I genuinely like that I've come on as a guest to some non-Godzilla movies that Derek, you've not seen before, right?
Yeah, in both cases.
Yeah.
Actually, the continuity is funny. Mm-hmm. In both cases, you have not been on for a movie with Godzilla in it. In both cases, it's movies that I hadn't seen. And in both cases, there is a major character with the last name of Nelson and the first name that starts with a C. Isn't that weird?
Yeah. Well, but I think it's fun. And I think, obviously, Doug, you're still, I would assume, a little bit in the dark about why we're doing this, but
I have an idea.
You have an idea, but also it's just these, you mentioned in the previous episode that this was the A movie of the year, while the B movie was Son of Godzilla, the A team and the B team. I don't mean, they're all kind of B movies, but lovingly.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important to do, because I think one of my big hypotheses last time was that even if there's not continuity, these films do help kind of make the process of going through these movies a little bit smoother in some ways. And it's fun to just know what else was going on and what else Toho was putting out in the same year, because there's similarities. There's also differences. So yeah, I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, I think it'll be really fun to talk about how different the vibe of this movie is from Son of Godzilla, despite coming out the same year. But yeah, I think the Ichiro Honda factor and the Eiji Tsuburaya factor is very apparent in this movie. Before we get into that, I would like to talk briefly about your book that you have coming out that I think is useful bringing up now, because I think it'll be very relevant and exciting for tokusatsu fans. So tell us a little bit about Go Man.
Thank you very much. Yes, coming out this year, August 26th, I believe, is Go Man Volume 1, Champion of Earth, which is my new series. I'm actually currently drawing Volume 2 right now. And I hope this sells well so that I can get a volume 3 and 4 and all that stuff. It's my new big series. It's initially aimed, I would say, a tiny bit younger than my previous comic book series, Dead Endia. But the idea is that this is, the first arc of Dragon Ball, and then it'll kind of age up and get more epic and intense as it goes on. And it takes place in a world, I think, kind of similar to this kind of later 60s Godzilla world, where monsters sort of exist. Everything's a little bit retrofuturism. the military already has their laser tanks because they we said this isn't their first rodeo when monsters attack. And it's called Go-Man because it's about a Ultraman-esque type superhero called Go-Man, who in actuality is a boy called Toby, who's a real latchkey kid. He basically, his dad's always at work, so he's raised by the AI in his kitchen and house, who are always looking out for him. And he's autistic. And my previous book series had an autistic character. I've spoken about in some interviews and stuff about how writing that character led me to get my own diagnosis. And basically this is obviously a labor of love from the kaiju side of things, but it's also me kind of writing my experiences a bit more autobiographically than I've ever done before, even though it is about superheroes and monsters and stuff. The reason it's called Go-Man is that in this world, the monsters are referred to as GOs, or giant organisms. And when he first shows up as this giant superhero creature, he kind of gets misunderstood as GO man, because he's all the monsters are called GO shark and GO whatever.
That's genius, actually.
Well, the real reason I called it Go-Man is that it was called many different things, and I just couldn't believe that Go-Man hadn't been trademarked yet. So I took it. And but yeah, a lot of the themes are about kind of sort of stuff that I think you're even approaching in this show now, where these monsters are starting to become less just threats and characters that we can kind of relate to. So a lot of it's about the feeling of being a monster, of being born into the wrong world, being a bit too big and destructive for it, and sort of the idea of masking as well, with autism, and how I'm sort of using the Ultraman superhero story to talk about putting on a mask to being the thing that everyone wants, but I don't know, it maybe tires you out inside. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Probably a fun book for all your listeners, and you can pre-order it now, I should say.
It's fantastic too. Derek and I have been able to get a peek at it, and it is really, really fantastic stuff. I already told Hamish this, but there were points where I was laughing out loud. There were points where I literally gasped at things that happened. I was very, very sucked into it. It's fantastic, Hamish.
Yeah. And I think that people who, especially people who are, familiar with or grew up with classic Ultraman kind of vibes, late 60s tokusatsu, what we're talking about now, I think it really captures a lot of that magic too in the creatures and everything. There is something really special about classical tokusatsu that I think is often hard for a lot of modern things that are riffing on tokusatsu to actually capture. So I think nice work for capturing that in a way that I think is probably very challenging to do.
It's also tickling that part of my brain that wants to know all the monsters and all the characters, and I don't know them all yet, so I'm just excited to finally have the catalog, you know?
It was quite tough for me to write because I have had this just stating in my brain for a long time. I actually pitched this to Nickelodeon 12 years ago, and back then I was like, it's about kaiju stuff. And they were like, what's a kaiju? And I had to really hold their hand through it. And they really didn't get it. And now it's an almost oversubscribed genre. And so when I came to do the book version, my original Nickelodeon pitch was I would say much more derivative of just, I like Godzilla films. I want to make a Godzilla book. And when I came to do it this time, because there's so many kaiju books out there, that's why it became a lot more personal and much more about my, the whole mask metaphor thing came in really late when I was wait, this whole thing is about this. And I won't spoil what his superpowers sort of become, but it's all a little bit of a metaphor. So yeah, and when I first wrote the script, it was twice the length, and I had to cut out lots more and focus on the characters. It's a world that I've thought a lot about, but in book one, you definitely just sort of see the surface, and you're setting the table. And I think of the whole book one is almost like the pilot, and then Volume 2, which I'm working on right now, is the sort of subversion of some of the tropes and even more twists and even more exciting stuff. And we want these to come out kind of quicker than my other books, so it has a little bit of that manga feel of like going back to the comic shop, seeing if they have the new one.
Hell yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it's really fun. And also, just one last thing is in book 1, you mentioned the 60s, you mentioned Showa. My like hope for the series is that like the design of everything would go is like a little bit more Heisei and then a little bit more Millennium, a little bit more Reiwa. So
that's really cool.
The design of everything.
Such a cool concept.
There's some giant robots in this, which are very much more Mechanicon than they are like Evangelion. But I'd love the kind of visuals to evolve as the books go on. So
it's so cool.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely. Include links to the pre-order page in the show notes, and then it's out in August, right? Like that's when it actually comes out. Is that right?
I hope to be doing some kind of events or book launches. We haven't really figured it out yet. My publisher is quite protective of me and sort of advising about maybe traveling to the US right now, for the sole purpose that they've had problems with if I went over to a book signing, I'm technically like coming over to work, and they don't like that. So we're trying to figure something out. I'm going to do digital events and things like that as well. But like I said, this is my series for the next few years, so you'll be seeing a lot more of Go-Man. And I really want to expand it. I want to make merch and things. So any support at the very start is very, very appreciated.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for telling us about that. Definitely check that out. If you're listening, you will certainly like it. But now we're here to talk about a giant ape and his mechanical robot buddy. Doug, what's your overall feelings on this movie?
This one's fun and not entirely what I expected. I didn't really know what to expect because I didn't really know why we were watching this one. It becomes really clear, at least partially, why we're watching it pretty quickly, because Mechanicon is revealed pretty quickly.
So early in this. I was so surprised.
Yeah. So I'm assuming the reason, and I don't know why I couldn't figure this out, but I'm assuming the reason we're watching this is because I'm guessing this is the first of the like robot version of monster we're familiar with stories.
That's one reason. That's why we're watching it right now, like today, for today. That's why because it was a thing where I wasn't exactly sure where to slot it, but then we're literally watching your first exposure to Mechagodzilla in a couple of weeks. Right. Obviously not the first Mechagodzilla because of the timing of when it shows up in the show era, but your introduction, Doug, to Mechagodzilla comes up next. So it made sense to have these sort of the example of a robot counterpart to the hero here in this movie.
Yeah, but I like this one. It's interesting. I think the reason I say it and it wasn't necessarily what I expected was because I think it's kind of doing King Kong again, but in a way that I would have expected, like in a more King Kong-y way even than King Kong versus Godzilla in some respects, because there isn't Godzilla to also tell the story about. So I like it. I like King Kong stuff. So this was a good one for me.
Yeah. This is my first time seeing it too, which I really had a lot of fun with it. I think it's a really fun, wild movie. Also, not what I expected. I agree with you. It feels more like a King Kong movie than like the last King Kong movie we watched was, certainly. And especially going into it, like I knew about Mechanicon and I know about the other kaiju that were in it, and I knew about Doctor Who, but other than that, I didn't really know like when you hear those elements, it's sort of like, well, this is going to be like not a King Kong movie, and yet it still feels a lot like it feels like a weirdly natural sequel to a classical King Kong movie in a lot of ways. And I was honestly kind of surprised by how much it just feels like just a sequel to the original King Kong, ignoring the actual Toho King Kong of it all completely. Like this is not anything close to what was in King Kong versus Godzilla in an interesting way, other than him like fully having his titties out. That's really about the only similarity.
I knew it. I knew it would happen.
Yeah. So
and good.
Found that very interesting. We talk about the origins of this in some ways when we talked about Abira and in our Patreon episode on The Last Dinosaur, because this is all kind of tied up with Rankin Bass, right? So, after King Kong versus Godzilla, RKO licensed King Kong rights to Rankin Bass Productions. That's the American company that did like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, among many, many other things. And we know that they do end up having a relationship with Japanese studios on co-productions through the 60s and 70s, like with The Last Dinosaur. This is about roughly where this starts with their relationship with Japanese studios, because with the Kong rights, Rankin Bass started producing the King Kong Show cartoon in 1966, which, as far as I know, is the first animated cartoon series that was an American cartoon animated in Japan, because Rankin Bass subcontracted the animation to Toei Studios. I don't think that had ever happened before then. Which is really
I guess that
fascinating.
makes sense. I've never thought about that before, but it is way earlier than I think people would realize.
Yeah, because then, that happens like all the time, like in the 80s especially. Toei also aired in Japan. So like there's a presence for this show in both America and in Japan at the time. Are either of you familiar with the cartoon at all?
I won't say familiar in the sense that I can tell you my favorite episodes, but I definitely have sought it out in the past.
Not easy to find because many of those episodes are literally lost media, unfortunately.
Yeah, I am aware of it, and I started one of the episodes that was like on Internet Archive, and I was like, oh, I need to be in a different headspace because this is rough. Like the quality of the rip, not necessarily the show.
It was a 3-segment half-hour cartoon, so there would be like 2 like 7 or 8 minute Kong segments, and then like a segment in between called Tom of Thumb. This is not relevant, but the Tom of Thumb cartoon is fucking hilarious. It's like a parody of spy movies. It's loosely based on like the Tom Thumb fairy tale. It's very similar to the Hanna-Barbera cartoon Inch High Private Eye, because it's like this guy, a maintenance man named Tom, is accidentally struck with a shrink ray along with his assistant Swing and Jack. So they're like really tiny, and then they create the tiny human underground military bureau, acronym Thumb. They use their new size to benefit the country as secret agents.
They're so cute.
Makes sense to pair that with King Kong, of course. Big and little,
That's the kind of idea that sounds quaint in the 60s, but sounds just like a Netflix show now. It's like, we're going to, like, this is, the Tom Thumb IP has not been utilized, and we can, I don't know. Sounds like a Russo Brothers movie.
Thumb is an acronym.
Yeah. Oh,
that's so funny.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I think that is honestly like, you're right. That is exactly what they would do now, for sure. There were 20 half-hour episodes aired that have, each with 3 segments from those 2 shows. Like I said, it's kind of partially lost media. Like some episodes got a DVD release, so there's some that exist. Some of them are covered via VHS rips. But out of like the 72 total segments of King Kong and Tom of Thumb, only 32 of them are still considered lost by the Lost Media Wiki. So there's still a bunch of them. The reason I bring all this up, the Tom of Thumb thing doesn't matter. I just thought that was funny. But the King Kong show is very important to this because it does kind of provide the framework of what this movie is. It features a family of explorers with the last name Bond, hilariously. But it includes the husband and wife, Carl and Susan Bond, sound familiar, exploring a tropical island full of dinosaurs and other threats, protected by their friend King Kong. But the other thing in this show is that there are villains, one villain being Doctor Who. This Doctor Who, in the cartoon, I will send you a picture of him. He is clearly modeled after like some James Bond villains like Dr. No and Blofeld. He's like kind of a German Nazi kind of guy. So, not British Doctor Who, not this movie Doctor Who, like its own little Doctor Who.
Yeah.
But the other thing in this cartoon is that Doctor Who builds a mechanical duplicate of Kong that appears in 2 different episodes. It looks with 2 different designs, and both of them are called Mechanicong. I love that the first iteration of Mechanicong just has straight up nipples, like iron nipples. I think that's amazing.
Obviously.
So all of that is to say,
they're so shiny.
Yeah, they're so shiny. All of that is to say, Doctor Who and Mechanicong and like the basic framework for this movie start in this cartoon. Like technically, by all accounts, we'll talk about it, but technically by all accounts, this movie is a live action adaptation of a cartoon show that was already in production, which is just kind of wild.
What is it with 60s TV starring characters called Doctor Who and Susan that makes people want to like lose any trace of their, like Doctor Who famously has lots of lost missing episodes. And it's like a bad omen.
Yeah.
But yeah, that sounds great. I mean, what was the first ever live action adaptation of a cartoon series?
Oh, that's a fantastic question.
That's a really fantastic question.
I know you had serials, like Batman serials and things based on comics.
Yeah.
But like, had there been like live action Popeye things by now, or
No.
or what? I don't know.
That doesn't happen until like the 80s. God, that is a really good question. It's hard because I feel like you get like live action fairy tale things, but like that's still that are probably capitalizing on like Disney having made a cartoon movie, but it's not technically an adaptation of that animated movie. It's sort of like capitalizing on a free domain story or whatever. So yeah, this might be, this could be one of the earliest times that there was like an existing animated IP that they then do a live action adaptation of, like intentionally so. That's an interesting question. I didn't thought about that.
Yeah, anything else I can think of is just a live action adaptation of something like you were saying, Hamish, that was printed first. Because like Spider-Man had a cartoon and then a live action thing, but that was a comic first, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, all of it's so weird that this is like how this movie comes to be, honestly, to me, especially that it's like an American studio making this cartoon. And like, also, in case you're curious, Mechanicon's first appearance, I did watch that episode. It is the kind of deal that you see in a lot of versions of this type of story where he's masquerading as Kong to destroy New Guinea specifically.
Oh no.
And then Kong and the Bond family have to like prove his innocence. The second appearance, I couldn't tell you because it is not watchable. So I don't know what happens in the second appearance. But he only makes those 2 appearances. But obviously it's striking enough to like stick in the memories of when they're trying to conceive of a movie. But Rankin Bass realized that like their license allows them to make a theatrical feature adapted from their cartoon. And because they'd already been working with a Japanese studio in Toho had done the previous King Kong movie. It just makes sense for Rankin Bass to work with another Japanese studio, in this case Toho, to make their movie. Tomoyuki Tanaka was like, sure, King Kong paid us lots of money last time. Well, we'll do another movie, which is then when they write the script to King Kong versus Ibira, Operation Robinson Crusoe, which we talked about in the Ibira episode, right? That obviously, Rankin Bass doesn't really like that script very much, so that just gets turned into a Godzilla movie with pretty much the same script. And instead, Takeshi Kimura, who we're familiar with for having written Rodan and Frankenstein versus Baragon and Matango, then takes over writing a script. And he does borrow more directly from the cartoon scripts, probably partially to appease Rankin Bass. So includes Doctor Who, includes Doctor Who building a giant robot duplicate of Kong. So there you go. And that's how you kind of get the framework for this movie. Of course, this also means that, like with Astro Monster and UPA, this is an American-Japanese co-production, which means that they're more willing to bring in American actors. One of the reasons that I found for why they specifically brought in the American actors they did was that producer Arthur Rankin Jr. was concerned that Honda and crew would, quote, make the picture sillier than it already is. So he assigned lead actor Rhodes Reason, who plays Carl Nelson, to, quote, keep an eye on things. And that meant things like Reason having Honda's art department redress the sets because he felt like there were so many props that it was, quote, like a garage sale, and rewrote his own dialogue at certain points, apparently openly complained that his makeup made him look like, quote, a geisha girl.
What? I hate all that.
It's funny because he does give an extremely, like, serious performance, which only makes everything camper.
Well, sure, because you have somebody really, really straight to compare everything else to.
Listen, if you like Rhodes Reason in this movie in any way, which I had fun with him when I watched it, I will ruin him for you. This guy, I have so many quotes from this. I have like a rabbit hole of this man. I hate this man with a fiery passion. I don't know if we want to go down this rabbit hole now or just wait for the character section, but I like straight up hate this guy. Reading some of the things he had to say about this movie.
Wow.
Yeah, he fucking sucks. We'll put a pin in that later because I'll have to do some yelling. But yeah, so there was a little bit. I know. In the past, Doug, you've asked about like when in the co-productions there was tension, and my understanding with like Astro Monster is that it wasn't really like problematic having the two studios working together. It sounds like this one there was more tension, maybe not like significantly, but like just with the Rankin Bass and Rhodes Reason things, I think that they did bump up with Honda and crew and seem to look down on the production that they were working on ultimately in a way that I think like Nick Adams and UPA didn't really.
Well, it sounds like it's easy to point to how that happened in like how that differs from the other productions, right? There's this clear sort of instruction from one side of things to try to wrangle in a way that didn't need to be happening.
Also, if you're curious with the weird release stuff, part of the rights thing with Rankin Bass getting the rights to King Kong, but then working with Toho, part of the deal, and then Rankin Bass, once the movie is made, they like sell their rights to this movie to Universal, which is really similar to how things went down with King Kong versus Godzilla. But part of the deals to make it, I want to make sure I get this right. Part of the deals to make it was that Toho signed away any rights in the territories controlled by their American partners. So Toho themselves can't offer like the Japanese versions to distributors in North America, the United Kingdom, and Australia, right? And then Universal has permanent ownership of everything related to King Kong Escapes, which includes the Japanese versions in like North America and neighboring communities or neighboring countries, right? So theoretically, Toho cannot like sanction a release of King Kong Escapes, the Japanese versions here, but they could give the prints and materials for King Kong Escapes to Universal to release it if they wanted to, but Universal would reap all the benefits of releasing the Japanese version. Hence why you can really only get the English dub of King Kong Escapes in like North America and the United Kingdom and everything like that at this point, because Toho is like, why would we like just give it to you if we're not like going to make money off of it if it's just going to be releasing it? We're not going to give you the Japanese version. You got to deal with it. And I think that's why like King Kong versus Godzilla, I think they relented, you know, for the Criterion set, for example, but it was still like they didn't give them the materials to remaster it or anything. It's just sort of like, we'll give you little scraps, but like we still want to have control over releasing our Japanese version. We don't have it, so we're not going to give it to you. So
yeah, that really surprised me because some of the movies that we've watched that are harder to find a Japanese version for, I've been able to like hop over to the library, like the Cleveland Library, and they have like a weirdly good collection of these monster and kaiju movies. So I was like, oh, I'll just grab it from there. And it was still the English dub of it, which really caught me off guard. I've
watched both versions. You know, no matter which version you're watching, half the cast is dubbed anyway. But even in that, I do think some of the American actors' performances are probably better in Japanese. But
I'm with you on that, actually.
I think it's I didn't notice any like huge discrepancies in the subtitling or anything. I do think sometimes the dub makes, especially Doctor Who and Madame Piranha, it's sort of, there's a bit more nuance in at least the subtitled line than in the, things get shortened to be like, I'm evil, get in there. And the subtitle might be a bit more like, I'm vengeful and feel, I don't know, I'm doing bad examples, but they seem very similar. It's not the case of like a huge omission if you're watching either of them.
Yeah. I ended up watching them both too, and that also surprised me. I figured that they would be a lot different, but it is mostly the villains and then how things are acted. And then the one thing I definitely noticed was in the English version, they refer to Jiro and Susan as affectionate towards each other, and then in the Japanese version, they refer to them as in love.
Ooh.
And I was like, that's an interesting difference.
That is interesting. Yeah. And the weird difference between Madam X and Madam Piranha, the way that she's credited between the two is strange too. But both kind of badass names though. I'm cool with either of them.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I mean, if you're listening and are interested in watching this, you're probably only going to be able to get the English dub unless you're like willing to, go to Internet Archive or whatever. But that's why it's weird. That's the other downside to American Japanese co-productions, unfortunately. At least as it was during the time.
Also, watch the English dub, because then how I sounded at the start of this episode might make a bit more sense. Otherwise, I think I'm trying to be gone totally insane.
Either one of them is totally fine to watch. But yeah, I think the English performances are sometimes funnier on accident.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. The only other production stuff I had, just in terms of some of the effects of this movie, or not even effects, just like the action of it in general, I found this really interesting. So apparently Toho was pressing Honda and Tsuburaya to like show more gore in monster battles, specifically because like Ultraman was happening at the time, and like Ultraman and I think other like, you know, kids programming and anime were just had more violence in them, you know, like Ultraman famously like will just like behead monsters and stuff like that. And so Toho was pressing them, and Tsuburaya specifically was like very against that, because he was very much of the mind of like, we're at a stage where these are explicitly children's movies. It's inappropriate to just have a bunch of gore in it. And I think the way they end up meeting halfway are like when Kong snaps, you know, the Gorosaurus jaw, all that like bubbly white foam kind of comes out. Like that was sort of the in-between, that there's at least some kind of wet fluid happening. And it's not blood necessarily, but you know, it's like kind of the in-between. Yeah. And then I guess Doctor Who getting like covered in like bloody as hell, like when he's getting killed at the end of it too.
Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
This movie does have a higher body count than I expected for when it is happening.
I don't know. I just found that interesting. I'm not like mad about it. I'm fine with gore in my 60s tokusatsu, but
the trajectory makes it interesting, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Or I guess like Tsuburaya was saying.
Yeah. And speaking of Tsuburaya too, I think technically this movie is important because it's kind of the last time that Honda and Tsuburaya are like directly like collaborating on a giant monster movie in this way, where they're both in like the same like OG roles that they are in. Because like after this, Tsuburaya is pretty much exclusively on these movies in like a supervisor role, which may or may not mean that he's really doing a lot actually on set at that point. So it's kind of important. It's important for that in that regard, because it's sort of like the last like original team up between them, you know? So let's talk about monsters.
Let's
talk about this King Kong.
Yeah.
Hiro Nakajima, who's Godzilla, plays him in this. What do you think of the new King Kong suit?
I like it. I think it's an upgrade, personally.
A+.
Happy to see the tits out. Happy to see that it is much more ape-like. And just generally overall, I think it looks of like a higher quality, just like materials wise, not necessarily like holistically.
Yeah.
I haven't expressed this yet. This is my favorite King Kong film.
Ooh, okay.
This is the King Kong I think of, and every time I watch King Kong versus Godzilla, I'm always like expecting this one, and then because I think this one is a good matchup to the design of Godzilla in that movie with like the big eyes and everything. I just love how expressive this one is. I really connect with it. I mean, I obviously the original King Kong movie is very important and impressive. I have lots of like nostalgia for the Peter Jackson one, all that stuff. But this is more story based. But like, this is the best shot I feel at making a King Kong series and like actually making a story that goes in a different direction and adds to his kind of lore and canon. And so I just feel like this Kong design, this Kong performance is just my favorite. And one, like, again, not really suit related thing, but when you watch these suitmation films, these traditional tokusatsu films, I like kind of how small Kong and Mechani Kong are compared to like maybe some other Godzilla films at the time. I like how much like buildings kind of tower over them and everything feels like a bit I don't know, there's something very frenetic and fun about the way he moves. There's some like really incredible shots of him moving with like miniature like vehicles and stuff that I genuinely think is very impressive.
I tend to like when Godzilla's a freaking mountain, but I don't necessarily love it as much when Kong is, because I think some of the stuff that's fun about Kong is the way that he can interact with the environment because he's still kind of its size. You know, if Godzilla's huge, like part of what's terrifying is that we're all insignificant, you know, like just by scale. But Kong being able to climb buildings, I think, is an important, fun element of Kong.
Yeah. I think like in universe, like based on how tall they say he is, I think he's about like half the height of like the King Kong versus Godzilla Kong, which I think is appropriate for King Kong. Like I think Godzilla versus, I think, when Kong is the size of Godzilla, I think that's too big. Like I
agree,
you know, but like I think that this King Kong like is really, I love how expressive he is. And he's like, so I think as a kaiju protagonist, I think like it makes so much sense. Like, like you're saying, Hamish, I could sort of see this being a thing where you follow him through multiple movies and he's always kind of your protagonist of it. Cause there's something, like I said, so charming about him and so expressive. I love that he's just like lonely and horny and he makes me so sad for him all the time. And it's just like, I don't know. I think that like, I think like I often feel bad for Godzilla, but I understand why maybe some people watching Godzilla movies don't feel bad for him because he's a big lizard man. I feel like with Kong, it's kind of impossible to not like have some kind of emotional connection with him, especially in this movie. Like he just feels very innocent and just like a nice guy who's just trying to live his life and help people. And when he's just like hanging out with the team at the end of the movie when they're driving the Corvette and stuff, it's like, oh yeah, they're like a family. They're like hanging out and they're going to be a team together. Like, I don't know. There's just, I all that is to say, like, fully co-sign. I really like this Kong. And I think the suit really works for him. And I think he's very, very well acted in this movie too.
Yeah, for sure.
I think with Kong designs, there's a like dial you're twisting between monster and just big gorilla. Because I kind of, you know, the Peter Jackson one was very it came at just the time when I was like going to the movies. I know when I saw the legendary design for the first time, I was like, why isn't it just a big gorilla? That's King Kong. I think over time I've understood that I do like my Kong to be somewhat unique.
Yeah.
But I like how this has, you know, a little bit of the gorilla sort of height to its head. I sort of like its coloring. It just feels a kind of nice in between the sort of ugly brown gremlin sort of Kong we had before in Toho and the kind of Peter Jackson. It's just a big gorilla type character. And I think like, you know, the films don't force you to believe that this is the same ape in all of these movies. Like it's just a species of big monkey that we keep encountering on islands. And it's interesting because this is also the movie with kind of the least amount of like Skull Island-esque kind of baggage.
Yep.
I was wondering
and they
about
say,
that.
Yeah, they even say at one point that he's like swimming between various islands.
Yeah. So
it's not like he is Kong of Skull Island and there's like legends about him there. It's just that's why at one point Susan says like, I thought that was just a legend.
Yeah.
Which means that there is like in this world a Bigfoot legend, but the Bigfoot legend is that he's massive and like is spotted swimming between various islands and stuff.
Incredible.
I love that.
It makes me like I don't know if this is a hot take, but I kind of wish that the Ebera movie had been a Kong movie and that we'd kind of integrated Kong, you know, keep Mothra in that movie and integrated Kong more into this kind of this universe and all these kind of island movies you've been watching lately.
Yeah.
I like them obviously, but the more I like, you know, the more I think about this movie and how much I like it and this Kong design, it kind of feels odd that there's just King Kong versus Godzilla and King Kong Escapes. That like it feels like there's this lost trilogy or lost series. I guess spoilers for Doug that it's like Kong doesn't show up that much.
I was getting that
forward,
sense.
but-
You're good.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point though, because I think this movie in retrospect kind of convinces me that Ebera would have been great as a Kong movie, which I don't think I was necessarily convinced of when we were watching it. Not that I felt strongly it wouldn't have worked, but I don't know that I was like seeing the vision quite clearly. But yeah, with this I do, especially with the characterization of Kong, with the idea that he's this aquatic ape that sort of isn't confined to one island, I think works really, really well.
Yeah, and I do love the idea of Kong and Mothra like hanging out. Like it does feel like we really
I think
missed
they'd
out
get
by not.
along.
It does feel like we really missed out by not getting that. I know there's some of that in like Monsterverse, but it's not the same as like what a Showa era like Mothra and Kong on an island together kind of movie would have been. Like I feel like we really got gypped by not getting that.
It'd be like the two friends who know the mutual friend, like hanging out at the bar because that friend hasn't shown up yet.
Yeah.
And they're like, so, ever been to Tokyo? Like, no. Oh, okay, cool. How do you know Godzilla? Oh, we fought. Like, oh, yeah, well, we fought as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And the island, the sort of island natives part of it all, like I think there's obviously this long history that we've talked about with Kong where there's like this really unfortunate like racist background in Kong's creation initially, that sometimes movies fall into that trap, like fall right back into. And I do feel like this movie like finds a way to just completely avoid that. Like I know that there is technically one island native, but it doesn't feel at all the same as what we've seen from island natives in other movies, and they don't really, I don't know, like Kong is sort of his own sort of solitary figure, almost independent of that, whereas before it's like he's usually very sort of entrenched in like some sort of island mythology in a way that ends up kind of often becoming problematic depending on how it's portrayed. And I don't know, I think that they kind of accomplished like getting him out of there and separating him from that, even while they still have him literally on an island in this movie,
Well, they maintain a sort of mythology around Kong that I think a lot of what that stuff is supposed to like evoke without necessarily needing all of the like convincing, right? Like there's this one guy on the island who is sort of the representative for this island seemingly, of Kong, or of this sort of information people would need, which I think it carries a lot more than they initially or originally thought one person could carry.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that makes
Wish he had survived.
Another weird thing they have, when I come on episodes, there's scenes of islanders being shot by the villain.
Yep.
Yeah, there are definitely shades in this movie of that movie for sure.
Yeah.
I must have misremembered this because I swear that character was like a lost World War II soldier or something. It wasn't actually like an islander, but I think I just fully made that up.
But that's a fascinating thought.
Yeah, I didn't get the sense that he was like from there, but maybe I'm just completely inventing that.
I do think that character is a little bit underused. Like, he's just kind of is there, and I felt like he was gonna like it. I do think because Honda is very empathetic as a person, they do make it clear that it is tragic when he dies. So I don't feel like it's like totally like wasted or anything, but
to that point, he really is like a signpost that says beware. You know what I mean? Largely.
Yeah. The only other thing I had about this King Kong suit, just sort of interesting, the original King Kong suit from King Kong vs. Godzilla was used in an episode of Ultra Q where they like put a tail on him and made him just a monkey kaiju. But when they made this movie, obviously they made a new suit for this Kong, but they did use that suit and like kind of put a new head on it and used it for water scenes. So they still got use out of the original suit for this too. I thought that was fun. But anything else about this King Kong before we move on to his robot buddy?
They are really effective at, and this isn't anything the two of you haven't already touched on a little bit, but they're really effective at conveying like a sadness in Kong that is consistent throughout. Like I think one of the things that makes me feel like this is so much more of a Kong movie is that there is never a moment where Kong feels particularly hostile. And even in the movies we've seen where Godzilla is at its most tragic sort of state, there's still like an element of hostility in Godzilla that I think is good for Godzilla, but that's not really ever here in this Kong, which I think endears me even more to him and makes it even clearer that this is a Kong story and not just like your average big monster story.
Yeah, he's lonely and horny, man.
Yeah. And horny. well, you see, Kong is a male, and
Oh my
Susan is.
God.
Well, take a look for yourself, gentlemen.
Oh my gosh. I love that the Madam X, I know the reason is different, but I love that she just bails. And I would like to believe that she's just sort of like, I can't be in this room full of men any longer.
Yeah. It is interesting because I think for King Kong versus Godzilla, they adjusted Kong to fit Godzilla in terms of like size and everything. And it's interesting in this movie, it feels a bit more like, well, what is a Kong movie? He's got to pick up a pretty girl, and he's got to climb a landmark. And it's more like the King Kong tropes are like very present.
Yeah.
And also, if you're going to see Kong in a Toho film, you're going to have to watch some very slow airlifting sequences, which is, again, interesting. Like, Godzilla just can show up somewhere, but it feels like Kong always has to be dragged somewhere against his will.
Yeah,
That's part of the tragedy. That's part of the like mistreatment
Yeah.
of Kong, you know?
Yeah, that is interesting.
sure.
He has like less agency than Godzilla does, and like because he can be controlled by people, that makes him more of a tragic figure that you feel a lot more empathetic towards. So that's really interesting. Mechanicong, though, this guy fucking rules. Played by Hiroshi Sakita. He was Abira and, you know, one of the titular kaiju in War of the Gargantua. So we met him before. What a killer design. Oh my God, this guy's so cool.
Oh, we see an action figure.
Yes.
Yeah, I last time I was in LA, I went to whatever it's called, Little Tokyo, and this cost more than it should, but I've always loved this design. Mechanicong, I think I was mentioning earlier, like, I love robots and mechs and stuff, but I'm much more endeared to, and you can see this in Go-Man, the kind of rounder, slightly goofier, but I mean that very lovingly, designs than maybe the more kind of Gundam angular stuff. I love Mechanicong. I love that he's called Mechanicong. It's such a funny name. I love when we meet him first. I love that the basic plot of this movie is like, I have built a giant robot to mine for element X, and when it breaks down, they're like, fine, let's get the real one. And it's like, why does it have to be a gorilla?
Yeah. Right. Well, the fact, because that is what's so funny about it, is that it's like there is such a framework for the story that I think we're used to now whenever we see it all the time. And it's like, oh yeah, they build the evil robot version to either fight the hero specifically or to like masquerade as the hero. There you go. This one is just like, yeah, it's literally just like a digging machine that just looks like Kong for some reason, because that was just what the model looked like. And it's like, well, it's so funny.
It's odd because there's like this part of the legend of Kong, or I guess part of the evidence of Kong, is that Kong burrows in tunnels, and we never actually see that. We just see like a picture of a Kong tunnel, I guess. So I guess that's why they designed a robot burrowing ape. It's not what I typically associate with apes or gorillas, but I guess for whatever reason this Kong digs.
Yeah, funny that the Kong is like, his big superpower is like burrowing places, which is not a thing any Kong has ever done, I don't think. And I don't think any gorilla or any ape or monkey is like ever known to do,
strange.
I feel like.
And also, it's like, it's not just burrowing, it's having a grenade belt. And like, it's like, what can do both things? It needs thumbs to be able to hold grenades, and it needs to be able to burrow, so I guess it has to be a gorilla. Doctor Who in this film reminds me a little bit of that like famous Spider-Man panel of like, is it Sauron, the dinosaur, where it's like, with your technology you can cure cancer, and he's like, I don't want to, I want to turn people into dinosaurs. For this, it's like, you're trying to find this element to create weapons, but you already have the ability to build like giant robot monsters. Like, why don't you just do that? And like, no, I want a gorilla to burrow. It's like he had the visual he wanted first, and then like worked in an evil scheme afterwards.
He's a designer. He's an artiste, you know?
Yes.
He has a
I
vision.
mean, look at his cape. But more on him later, obviously. I think Mechanicong is wonderful, and it's kind of a shame that anything Kong related is sort of tied up in these awkward rights things, because I think it's one of the best, in my opinion, like Toho monsters.
Yeah.
I'd love to see him showing up in more like games and stuff. I actually do have. I know this is my last visual of this non-visual podcast, but I do buy these like Japanese Godzilla mangas, and I do have one. And it's like the Heisei Godzilla fighting Mechanicon.
Ooh.
Blah blah blah. There's just like some nice drawings of him, and I think he works really well. In kind of
wow.
Oh, he looks so cool.
manga style.
It is such a good design. Like the lines on him are so clear that like drawing him flat, like it will look cool. Like I feel like there's no way to make him not look
It's
cool.
funny because the paneling that ends up being drawn as lines in a flat drawing kind of are Ultraman-ish. You know what I mean? Like it's really kind of strange. And they don't necessarily look like that on film. But they do kind of have similar shapes, at least on the torso. This design is cool. I'm with you, Hamish. This is one of my favorite monster designs I've seen so far from them. And what really floored me is that this is, I don't know that it's explicitly so, but like 3-dimensional Donkey Kong is just this. Like they just made Donkey Kong look like Mechanicon. But because that's way after the fact.
Wait.
Like way after
It's
the
got
fact.
the same like
Same brow,
thing.
same like inset
Yeah.
eyes, same sort of like point on the top of the head, same face proportion. Like it. That's
so
the
funny.
first thing I saw. I was like, wait a second, they fully just
there's
took
this
Mechanicong's
Wow.
face.
there's this famous Donkey Kong lawsuit that Universal did against Nintendo for creating Donkey Kong.
Uh-huh.
And it'd be funny if like the Nintendo won, they managed to prove that like lots of places use Kong and blah blah blah, and their lawyer in the case was called Kirby, and they named Kirby after him. Fun fact.
Oh, okay, in
anyway.
that direction. I was gonna say, how does that keep happening? Like with Doug Bowser.
No,
and all
no.
that, but
But it'd be funny if like after the case we're like, thank God they'd never heard of Mechanicon because we really ripped that off. Also, where's the robot Donkey Kong? That's what we need
okay.
next
That's
game.
what's so funny. There's a Cyber Kong in the Donkey Kong franchise that doesn't look like this because it probably would look too close.
That's so funny. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Proof that it's just a killer design.
Yeah, it is. It's a fantastic design. It's really, really cool. I love the way it moves. I love that it doesn't move the same way as King Kong does because it's a fucking robot, you know? But it still
Right.
has
Right.
ape-like sort of movements to it. It's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I love how it moves too. The suit was constructed from the hard sponge material used in bath mats,
Okay.
apparently. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think this is a suit that would actually probably not, it wouldn't be easy, but it wouldn't be impossible to cosplay this with just like the, foam that you use in cosplay now. So I think it's probably sort of the same vibe as what they were going for with that. It's just funny that it was like bath mat sponge. They had, two different sets of arms that they sort of went back and forth with, like a long pair and short pair, which you can tell sometimes in the movie. His eyes were lit by an 8mm projector lamp.
Oh.
Yeah. 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 They had a foot-high hand puppet that they used for the Tokyo Tower scene, and also a life-size model of his right hand at certain points to grab Susan Watson. And the remains, after he falls from Tokyo Tower, which is fucking cool, by the way, they're composed of TV circuit boards and pieces of props from Mothra and the War of the Gargantuous, specifically like that heat ray gun that they used in Mothra, and then like a laser cannon that they used in War of the Gargantuous. So
That's fun.
yeah, I thought that was fun.
Super cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, his musical theme is just an updated version of the military march from King Kong vs. Godzilla.
Oh.
Interestingly. Yeah.
That makes
I never
sense.
noticed that. Yeah. Yeah. No, I love him. I love his like dumbfounded look that he has sometimes and his shiny eyes.
Yeah, he's so not threatening in just a visual way.
Yeah.
It's like the villain has created this evil robot, but like he still wants like a cute little guy.
Because
there's
he
like a scene.
Based his villain robot on like the most sympathetic monster we've ever met outside of maybe the original Godzilla, like
Yeah.
There's that scene where Kong and Mechanicon are like contained together, and Kong's trying to like talk to Mechanicon. It's
Oh my God, it made me so
it's
sad.
very, very sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, oh, it's another one of me. He's my friend. He just looks a little different, but I still love him.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's great. I love that he has a hypnotism like ray on the top of his head, and sound speaker. He just opens his mouth and Doctor Who just talks out of it.
I
It's
was
so funny.
trying
It's
to
so
figure
funny.
out what was going on with his mouth. Like right when we first saw him, I was like, what is going on in there? And then to learn that it's just speakers is the funniest thing. It makes so much sense. He doesn't need a mouth like an actual conventional mouth, but it's so funny to me.
I saw this film at a cinema only a few months ago, and that definitely got a huge cheer for some reason.
Really?
people just like really into whenever. I mean, I don't want everyone to be laughing nonstop at just like the effects.
Of course.
But there's stuff in this film that's definitely just so charming that you can't help but like chuckle whenever you see Mechanic Kong just like waddling around.
Yeah.
I think of it as like laughing with the film.
Charming is the exact right word for that, and especially for Mechanic Kong.
I think what's one of the things that manages to keep Mechanic Kong really charming, outside of like obviously being an ape, is like the robot design isn't. I this is gonna sound meaner than I mean for it to be, but I don't think it's meant to look like cool in the way that like you would design a robot in 2025 to look cool. It's sort of what you're talking about, Hamish, where it's like robots that have more round shapes to them, or that are more recognizably like characters, or can kind of convey emotion. Like they nail that here, and I think a large part of it is they kind of make an ape in a suit of armor more so than they make like a cool robot version of King Kong.
Totally.
Yeah.
Actually, I did want to ask one question to you, Doug. So when did you? I know that you couldn't have avoided seeing Mechanic Kong on like the cover of the Blu-ray, but did you ever know that he existed before that point? Had you ever heard that there was ever even a Mechanic Kong?
I had no idea. I'm guessing based on my experience that Mechanic Kong is like vastly overshadowed by whenever Mechagodzilla happens, because I'd heard of Mechagodzilla like long time ago, but I'd never heard of Mechanic Kong.
Yeah. I was just curious. That's fun that you got to like kind of experience, like discover him. Like
It was. What's funny is it wasn't even when I got the cover. It was like maybe literally like the next day after we had recorded and done predictions that I was like looking up like, oh, can I watch this somewhere? And it's so prominently featured on any sort of artwork or posters. That I was like, oh, well, now I have an answer.
To be fair, he shows up 5 minutes.
True.
in,
Right. There's no mystery.
Yeah.
They're not trying to keep it a secret. There's no reveal.
And you still simply could never have predicted the context. That of course he's just like a construction vehicle to find element X. Yeah, that's of course what he's there for.
And good. Our construction vehicles are ugly and boring. So.
Why are they all yellow all the time? I don't really get it. It's not the only kaiju. We've got the Gorosaurus, which is like the dinosaur dude in this. Second also portrays the Gorosaurus. He's an homage to the dinosaur that King Kong fights in the original King Kong movie. Of course, you've got to have a dinosaur in like King Kong, right? Like I think it makes sense.
To me,
yeah. But he's fun. I like his design. He's like an Allosaurus kind of dude.
It's kind of a better designed and constructed version of the last dinosaur T-Rex. It's got like similar proportions, but looks much cooler. And I love the one in the last dinosaur, but I love it because it's a little bit goofy.
What did you think of Gorosaurus's moves?
Well, you mean it's kangaroo kicks?
Dude, he jumps so high. How does he jump so high? And he keeps doing it.
I mean, the wire work in this must be, really intricate.
Truly.
Really strong wire work. And camera stuff going on there. Like they managed to really work their wires and cameras to emphasize that dinosaurs moves.
Yeah. I think he moves in cool, fun, weird ways. They used a balloon for the throat movements inside that he has. Cool. This is fun and interesting that they would inflate and deflate, I guess.
A lot of breathing stuff going on in this one, because there are moments where Kong's breathing is really, really evident too.
I don't know why, but it's the head was like really heavy apparently from the mechanism they had for like opening and closing the mouth, so they actually had to have the head connected to piano wire even when it wasn't doing kangaroo kicks, just to like keep it upright. That's apparently funny. Also, just fun fact, his roars are Baragon's roars sped up mixed with Ebura's short shrieks sped up.
They felt really familiar, so I was curious about that.
I have seen Gorosaurus all my life, and it was only when I was doing my I draw my Godzilla drawings on like a Blue Sky thread, but it was only when I was doing that I realized that he has like a big spike on the back of his tail that I'd never really noticed.
Oh,
it gets
I don't know if I
no
noticed that either.
spotlight in this at all, but it's like it's very clearly the tail ends and then there's like a spike on top.
Huh. You'd think he would use that to fight, but instead he kicks people.
Yes.
Huh. That had to have been planned for at some point, and they just couldn't quite figure out how to feature it, you know?
But it's cool. I don't have much to say about him. It's just fun that he shows up in this. That's a dinosaur fight. Sure. You know. It's the same deal with the giant sea serpent that's there for like 5 seconds. That's another thing that's like I think was intended to be an homage to like the plesiosaur that Kong fights in the original movie. So it's another like kind of long necked thing. It's just a puppet. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's cool for the half a second.
Yeah, and it would feel wrong for Kong to actually be alone. You know, like as much as he wants to be, like I feel like it would be weird to not have some monsters somewhere nearby. So
you want to see Kong fight something, but you don't want to have him meet Mechani Kong straight away.
Yeah.
Like
right.
Something to do. And also, I was talking about the size thing. I like that the Gorosaurus fight, again, is sort of amongst trees that are... There's like there's a bit where Kong puts Susan on a tree, and then in like a next shot, Gorosaurus just like swings his tail across all the trees. I'm like, okay, she's dead. But even I forgot about the sea serpent. It's like one of those. Yeah. There's like a handful of monsters in these movies, but like barely have names, but they're still like they have their own Wikizilla page. Stuff,
I feel like the sea serpent and the hawk, eagle, falcon thing from Ibira are probably friends because of how little they're featured.
Yeah.
They're hanging out over here on the
so
side.
Much more.
I don't know if you mentioned this, but like because they're so obscure and they don't get much love from merchandise and stuff, I feel like I don't know the full details. Didn't Toho do like a competition or like a poll recently, which was like, which monster is going to get an action figure? And like the giant condor won.
What?
Yeah.
And then like number 2 was like Ghidorah, 3 was like whatever. And like so many people were confused. And it's like, you don't understand. There's a lot of autistic people in this fandom who have like all the monsters lined up and there's still this one gap.
Sure.
And so now that we have a condor one, I'm sure giant sea serpent.
Oh, that's so amazing.
Next.
It's so
I love
funny.
that.
And I'm sure it's sold incredibly well everywhere.
You gotta fill that gap, Derek. It's important.
I love it. I love that they went through with it and made it.
And
It's
it deserves recognition, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
I do have one giant sea serpent fact. So the giant sea serpent, I will spoil, is not like a hugely recurring monster in this series. But it did show up a few months ago in there's like a puppet show called Godziban or Gojiban. With puppets. It's like a comedy YouTube puppet show. And it showed up to celebrate the Year of the Snake.
Oh, that's fun.
Because
so cute.
I believe, seems like the only snake they could like think of.
Yeah. Godziban makes some weirdly deep cuts.
Yeah.
Like anytime I ever watch it, it's like, oh wow, you're including that guy. Okay.
It's honestly, it makes so much sense to me though. Between the condor and the sea serpent showing up as recently as it sounds like a couple years ago, it makes sense. These movies have existed for so long and people have watched them so many times. Like nothing is missed in these movies collectively, you know? Like we might not have noticed the spike on the tail immediately, but that is probably well documented. You know, like it's impossible, I think, for anything to go unnoticed at this point. So somebody somewhere is like obsessed with the condor, somebody somewhere is obsessed with the sea serpent. So it's just a matter of time before every little thing kind of pops up in some sort of homage or some sort of fun little deep cut.
For sure.
Let's talk about the humans in this movie. Do I want to do you have any general things to say about the cast overall before I start ranting about one man for a little bit?
I think this is a generally strong and memorable core cast. Yeah. You know what I mean? That has not necessarily been the case for all the stuff we've been watching at this point of this era. Or in this particular way, you know, being like a specific trio that kind of points back to the original trio to some extent, is very different than like the team of bros in Ibira or the like full cast of scientists, many of which you never learn the names of. I mean, this is a very clear core cast that has clear characterization.
I agree. They feel in a very positive way cartoony, in the sense that they all have like a memorable costume and kind of role. Sadly, I do think Akira Takarada is the like weak element. He's basically there to just be a Japanese guy in those scenes, I suppose.
I think so.
Yeah, it's
Weird.
really weird. I don't know how you put him here in a main trio role and not do more.
The thing is, there's this other movie that I love called Latitude Zero. I don't think it's worth covering on the show because it's an Ishiro Honda Tsuburaya special effects movie from the 60s. It's great. It's camp as hell. But it doesn't necessarily have giant monsters in or anything. It's very disconnected. But if you ever want to do a Patreon episode, I'm available.
I've been wanting to watch it because I know the monstrous thing that is in that movie, and it sounds fucking bananas.
I've just seen the monstrous thing that's in that movie.
You still have only scratched the surface of that movie's insanity. I love it. It's got Cesar Romero in. From the Joker from the Batman series.
Oh.
It's got Joseph Cotton, who's in Citizen Kane and a bunch of classic movies. And the thing is, the reason I'm bringing it up is that it's another one of those like American Japanese co-production things, and Akira Takarada is in that one as well, basically kind of playing another guy on a ship with very little to do, and it honestly feels like he's truly the one they go to for favors, where it's like, just can you be someone on set to like control the other actors and like
bring a sense of professionalism to the gig.
And honestly, there's times watching this movie when I watching Latitude Zero where I'm like can't remember which one's which, because that also has like a blonde actress with a interesting performance. That was a tangent to say that we probably won't talk about gorgeous Akira as much as you usually do.
I really thought he would get like at least one hero moment when they were like freezing in the cell, and like literally all they do is just sit there and freeze while like Nelson is playing chess with the bad guy, and then eventually they're released. It's just like he gets nothing to do. It's so weird.
I do wonder if he was meant he and Susan together were meant to be more of a romantic plot line, and they were instructed to pull that back because it is an American woman and a Japanese man. I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if that were part of the story, because it's very clearly there, right? And in the Japanese dialogue, one of the characters explicitly comments on them being in love. So I don't know. I don't know if things were sort of pulled back or if it was always just kind of thin like this. But I don't know if it was more that was scaled back or if it was less and they were like, well, there's got to be some Japanese main character, and so they, tapped him. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think part of it is probably that there had to be some Japanese presence. I would not be surprised if it was like somebody was feeling weird about the interracial relationship of it, a part of it, especially given if like Arthur Rankin and Rhodes Reason were kind of like going in on us together to like control the movie, based on a lot of the things that Rhodes Reason has said. I think there's a little tiny bit of racism going on. So,
I know the can is like so close to being open. I wonder, I don't know the timeline of casting, but if Rhodes Reason is there to sort of be this like, commanding American presence on set, I don't think Akira Takarada is a terrible choice as like a 6 foot tall Japanese star to also be kind of a balance to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like Honda's got someone like on his side that is like dependable, that can.
Right.
Yeah.
If the whole thing is as political as the Rankin Bass side of things is, wouldn't hurt.
Yeah. I'm making a lot of speculation on how political it was, but like it just sounds like it was. It's based on anything that I've read about it.
All right, crack that can.
Yeah, okay. So Rhodes Reason, here's the thing that's funny about it is that like he's gonna talk like the most important man in the world. He hasn't this is probably his most significant like movie role. He did a lot of TV. I think like he did, I mean, he's like one of those dudes. He was in like one episode of many major things.
Sure.
He was in an episode of the original Star Trek. He was in an episode of Time Tunnel. He was in an episode of Perry Mason alongside Raymond Burr of Godzilla fame, right? So he's not done nothing. I think he did a lot of theater in his defense. So I think he was probably more of a theater guy, but he retired from like film acting at the end of the 70s. So he didn't have a very long career. I think his older brother Rex Reason had a bigger career than he did, I think.
What great names for both of them. Holy crap.
Right? Seriously. But I'll just say there's a lot of stuff from him in Ishiro, the Ishiro Honda biography that I'm just going to cite. I'm just going to cite some things that he said in like retrospective interviews. He said the first quote I'll open up is that Reason said that he knew that King Kong Escapes was very bad before he made it, but a curtain turned down the trip to Japan. So that's why he did it, is because he was an actor they could afford and got him a trip to Japan. In an interview 30 years later, so this isn't even like, you can't even say like, oh, it's just a man in the 60s talking of the time. This is like a man in modern day reflecting on his time on this movie he worked on 30 years ago. He says he called the Japanese way of filmmaking, quote, primitive, said he was not impressed with Honda, saying, and I quote, he knew how to make those films for his audience. He was always very introspective, very thoughtful. But to me, I hate to say it, Honda-san was a hack. I've worked with hundreds of hack directors and he could fit beautifully over here doing a number of motion pictures and things. He knows his craft, but there was nothing special about Honda-san as a director. He would direct me in strange and exotic ways that only the Japanese would appreciate. I don't know, man, maybe because he's a fucking Japanese man. Then he says, everything was exaggerated. Everything was so stylized, there was no reality to it. The translator would say, Honda-san wants you to run through the door. And I would say, thank Honda-san for me. I think it would just be more appropriate to do it differently. His direction was a little bit from outer space. You can tell from the other actors in the film, everybody's bigger than life, you know, with the mugging, and it gets to the point where it's ridiculous. I had to work to underplay to bring the film some credibility.
What? Okay. What movie does he think he's in? For like, what genre of movie does he think he's in? Like, and two, like, I don't understand how this dude thinks that he's like above this task that he's been given. Not because of the task itself, but because of who he is.
Like, I'm sorry, man. If you were asked to come over to Japan to do this movie, it's because you were someone that they could afford to get that would be willing to do it, not because you're one of the best actors in America. Like, come on, dude.
And for some of those comments to be made so recently, when like, who like, plenty of people have plenty of things to say about Godzilla movies at any point in the timeline. But Ishiro Honda made the original Godzilla movie, which I feel like you can't really get away with like fully wholly shitting on. You know what I mean? I'm sure people do, but I feel like you sound like an idiot if you do that.
Also, like,
that's why
it's a shame because from memory, wasn't, you know, Nick Adams, who was in Astro Monster and stuff, wasn't he quite complimentary about it all?
Yeah. I had nothing bad to say about it. I mean, if Nick Adams had any weird feelings about the movies he was doing, he at the very least was smart enough to not vocalize them at the time. And now maybe if he was alive long enough, maybe in retrospect he would have been shitty about it. But like, there's nothing bad that you can find that he said about those movies and seemed to really enjoy working on them and like had fun fucking ladies and that in the movies that were with him. So like, I don't think he had an issue with that. I think felt thankful that he was given the opportunity during a time when his career was kind of on a downswing, you know, for Western audiences. And it feels like Rhodes' Reason, like, I think was probably in a similar position. Like, this could have been a boost of his career and he could have been doing a bunch of Japanese movies and getting opportunities that he wasn't getting in America, and just seemed to like, for some reason, take the idea that he was chosen as like a validation that he's like one of the best, I guess. It's really weird.
Interesting when I've only had like one or two interactions with like actors which have been kind of negative, and it's that thing where like, because they've been doing something for a long time and then they come into a room, they assume they know better than everybody. It happened a lot when I was younger and I was directing people and they were like film actors and they'd come and do animation.
Right.
And they'd assume that they like, well, I know the industry better than you, but they didn't know that I'd also been in the industry for a long time. I just like wasn't famous. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting to go to a whole other, you know, film industry and talk as if Ishiro Honda has not done a film before when he's made more films than this guy has.
That's what I'm saying.
And it's like
does
a
he think
well-oiled
Honda
machine
is?
at that point. And everything you talk about Honda, like he's aware of the films he's making. He's critical of them. It's not that he's insulting the genre as a whole, and Honda is like, how dare you ever say anything critical about a monster movie? It's like insulting you see this when you show people these movies, they'll laugh at the effects for a minute and then they'll see the mastery of them. They'll see like, yes, it's a model city. Actually, isn't that an incredible model city? Isn't there so much like love and labor and everything put into all these movies?
Yeah, it's just, yeah. I mean, and it's, I feel like calling like all of that and then still calling it primitive and strange and exotic. It's like, those are pretty big racist dog whistles there, I think. It's, like, I can't believe he would make movies in Japanese ways for a Japanese audience when you're a Japanese person. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? Like, it's so weird.
White American dude who thinks he's a hotshot going somewhere thinking it's like cute that they make movies too. Isn't it cute they make movies too? Yeah. It's like, it's dripping with that bullshit,
I'm glad his most famous movie is a movie in which he's outshone by a robot monkey.
Exactly.
According to that Honda biography, Honda was, quote, unfazed by his star's condescending attitude and enjoyed working with reason regardless.
Yeah, because he's a fucking professional.
Yeah. Like, I couldn't find a quote where Honda talks about him directly from that, but probably because he wasn't just like gossiping about us like an actor that he worked with.
Well, and I think the fact that he's not talking about him at all probably tells us what we need to know, because Honda doesn't exactly not talk. Like he's diplomatic about a lot of things, but to say nothing.
I guess before we move on, I would like to give the character a couple of compliments, and that is that I do think it's unique so far to have a character who's so much of a American style, like Renaissance man superhero type guy. Like, he's a scientist and an explorer, and he discovered Kong and built robots, and he speaks any language, and he has arch nemeses and things. It's so peculiar in this world. We don't usually meet characters like this.
Yeah, the character's cool. That's one of the things that makes Rhodes Reason being so annoying, so frustrating, because there's so clearly so much story to this character than we get in this one slice of his life through this movie. Like, this is a guy who's probably been all over the world. Like you said, to have an arch nemesis at all in this context, like, dude's been around, he's been doing stuff. He's been noticed. Yeah.
And I obviously, a lot of this movie is pulling from like James Bond, but he also gives me a lot of like Star Trek.
Yeah.
Not that there was like anything more than Captain Kirk at the time here, but like what Star Trek captains typically are, it feels a lot like that. And I know that I think when they were envisioning him as a character, I think he was modeled after like Admiral Nelson from Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, who's a captain of a submarine. So I think all of that makes sense too.
It's a fun character. It's fun to think about other stories that he could have been a part of, or other adventures that he would have gone on.
If you want to see that kind of character, but 2,000 degrees more camp and old and gay, watch Latitude Zero.
Okay.
So that's about a submarine captain wearing a cravat and like gold silk sort of flowing trousers.
You'd already convinced me, but now it's like rapidly flying up the queue.
Yeah, maybe the best movie
we'll see.
has ever made, it sounds like.
First time I saw it, it went to like the top of my like letterboxed Toho movie thing. I since watched it with my brother and was a bit like, I'm really sorry, this is quite bad, but I enjoyed it.
Counterpoint: the Japanese poster has the title in like rainbow font, so queer movie. Obviously, I'm excited about that. The other major American in this is Lieutenant Susan Watson, who's played by Linda Jo Miller. She had never acted before in her life, and she will fully acknowledge that. Apparently, during a pre-production visit to Japan, Rankin had seen her at only 19 years old as on the cover of a fashion magazine, tracked her down, cast her immediately just based on her looks, basically, and I guess her vibe. She was a military brat who was living in Japan with her family. So she'd become modeling professionally. She had no acting experience. I think she'd been in like one English instruction program for Japanese schools, apparently. But other than that, she was just a model, which is not like an uncommon story for a lot of things, right? Like model turned actor. But I think for her, everything that she ever talks about is sort of like, yeah, but I was truly like just a model. Like the acting thing, sorry, not for me. She has like an interview. I think this is also from the Ishiro Honda biography, where she's talking about like literally the first scene they shoot where, you know, all she's doing is just walking through the submarine, saluting people. And she was just like, you'd think walking would be an easy thing to do, but I was so stiff. I remember being very embarrassed. I just couldn't get it. And Honda shot it quite a few times. Honda-san was very much a gentleman, and he never looked at me like, God, that was awful. But you could tell he was thinking, well, it could have been better. So she fully acknowledges that like this wasn't the best performance in a movie, and she like does not do like this was the biggest performance. She quits acting like very soon after it.
When I was impersonating her, and it's done absolutely with love.
Of course,
her line deliveries are so. I mean, she sounds dubbed as well anyway, but like.
Well, she is. So she's not even. So her dub voice. So with Rhodes' Reason, he did come back and dub over himself in the English version. So that is his voice. With her, it's Julie Bennett who comes in and does the voice, which we know her, Doug. You know, she did all the female voices in Invasion of Astro Monster, and she was Aunt May in Spider-Man the Animated Series for the final 2 seasons. She does her. She also does the dub voice for Madame Piranha as well. She basically just does all the female voices.
I could tell that for sure.
The only, and I will say too, the only reason that like Linda Jo Miller didn't come back and do it, because she would have, like, she actually was mad when she found out that like someone had dubbed her over for the English version. It was because Rhodes' Reason was a SAG actor, so like he was able to kind of leverage that to get the work, and Linda Miller was not. She was just a model, and also she was in Japan, so they would have had to fly her over to New York to do the recording. So they're sort of like between those two things, they're just like not going to worry about it. So they just brought in Julie Bennett, who'd done this stuff before, to dub over her. But I don't think Linda Jo Miller liked the voice acting that was done for her in this.
Imagine watching a movie you're in and then you sound like that.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I'm making a big deal about it. It's not the craziest voice ever. It's just the first scene she's in. She says some really strange things, and she's like, "Gorillas, I think they're dull."
Yeah.
And she sounds really weird. And obviously I went to see this in a movie theater, and people were already like laughing at the start of the film.
Sure.
And so whenever she was on screen, she got like big cheers at her line deliveries.
Iconic. You can't forget them.
It is.
Honestly.
It's funny because her own perception of Honda's perception of her is often how I felt about her performance, and then Julie Bennett's line deliveries, where it's like, it's not bad, it just like isn't quite hitting where I think it's supposed to be. So I always kind of have fun with it, you know? I'm never like upset at what she's doing. I find her really endearing. And I saw, maybe you're about to say this, Derek, but I saw that like people didn't really even know who she was or where she was or what happened to her after this, and it was only like relatively recent that people were like confidently like, oh, it's her and she's here. And then she started doing the thing where she would show up at conventions and was like the sort of rediscovered actor, I think, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Which
I mean, because she didn't
funny.
like acting and didn't pursue it. So like, why would, like, I think she just, I'm not sure what she did with her life, but I think she just lived a normal life.
Went back to normal life. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always find those stories so interesting because it's like, you know, that when somebody was like, oh, you could go to this convention, and she's like, I don't know what that is. And they're like, you literally could get paid to just like go meet people who love the movie you were in. Like, that probably like blew her mind, you know? Which is really, really cool. Also, I wasn't going to mention this, but because of Julie Bennett, Doctor Who in the cartoon was voiced by Paul Soles, as I saw, who was the voice of Spider-Man in the original Spider-Man cartoon.
I didn't even catch that. That's such a good catch. Yeah, so you got an Aunt May and a Spider-Man. Yeah. That rules.
I think she's great. And obviously she gives good, Kong, put me down, which is
Kong,
an important
the amount
factor
of times
in
she
a
has
Kong
to
movie.
say that.
She's also, I think she's tiny, but it's hard to tell because both of those men are tall. So no matter what, she always ends up looking tiny.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I like her. I like her a lot.
I do too. Our other female lead is Miyahama, who plays either Madame Piranha or Madame X, like you said, depending on what you're watching. We know her. Obviously, she was in King Kong versus Godzilla, so it's fun that she's in this. But I think, honestly, more importantly, is that she was literally just in the Bond movie "You Only Live Twice" as like Kissy Suzuki in that.
Whoa!
So like, I think it makes like it's literally the same year, but I think they know that that's happening, and it's like, all right, we're gonna do our Bond riff. Let's get a Bond girl in here.
I didn't realize that.
It's amazing how many connections the Glitterjaw podcasts all have with each other. But talking about the same like really obscure actors who have been in Spider-Man cartoons and Bond movies and Godzilla movies.
We find the connections. We dig deep for that stuff, man.
Obviously, I love her. Love that she does. What's the opposite of a heel turn?
Is it face turn?
A little bit.
Yeah.
I prefer Madame Piranha just because there's Element X and all that stuff, and it's just such a ridiculous name. But my favorite thing about her is that throughout the entire movie, it's just like, my country will be very pleased. My country. She's even at the UN, presumably with a plaque behind her saying, my country.
That was such a strange detail to me.
You know what? My headcanon, she's Roskillian, if we would keep making the Mothra connections.
That would make sense, right? And I kept waiting for some sort of like name drop or something. Honestly, one of the biggest reasons I watched the Japanese dub 2 is because I was hoping so bad that they would actually name where she was from.
I know that her name of her country is my country. Like that's what it's called.
Yeah, right. Yes, exactly. So foolish of me. But like it just I don't understand. I know it's supposed to be mysterious. I know it's supposed to be like, hush hush, but like where are you from? I don't get it.
So I, again, have this false memory that I thought she kind of more alluded to the fact that she was like an alien or something.
That would be great.
That'd be fun.
But I don't think she is, because at one point, Nelson says, like, are you Chinese, Thai, Burmese?
Oh, you mean where he's like violently throwing her against a couch or whatever?
But then Doctor Who just says, you're getting warmer, which means, so it is just, if he kept going, he would have just got it. Like,
and Doctor Who is in the same sort of boat, right? But not the exact same boat as her, because neither one of them say where they're from or what they represent, I don't believe. But they clearly represent different parties.
Doctor Who's just an international Judas.
Of course.
That's his official title.
It would make more sense if both of them were just aliens, though. Like, I feel like the movie would just make so much more sense.
Honestly, I don't know why they didn't just do that. It's not unprecedented, Yeah. Just these two alien parties sort of politically warring on Earth. I love that.
I mean, they both have crazy technology, obviously building robots, but also lipstick communication device.
Is that a Bond reference itself, or just sort of vaguely in the same realm? Because it gives Bond gadget for sure.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing that you feel like you see in Bond parodies all the time, but I'm not familiar enough with James Bond.
I'll get the Q division on the line.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a thing that they'd actually done in James Bond at that point. But it definitely is riffing on that,
I feel like You Only Live Twice is when like everything that Bond parody is sort of like now finally.
Oh, they finally sort of like turn it down.
You Only Live Twice is the one with like a volcano lair and
hell yeah.
True like Dr. Evil style Blofeld with the cat and everything. So I feel like I wouldn't say they're parodying. They're trying to make something look as cool as a Bond movie. But this is more direction, but I do love that scene where she uses it and like they have the kind of conference call effect.
It's like
that caught me way off guard.
Yeah, it's like I never expected to see that kind of like composite like work where it's like riffing on a split screen. But like is it meant to just look like a camera effect, or was it meant to actually look like she is on they're trying to evoke that she is on like a futuristic screen for him? I genuinely couldn't tell if it's a technological thing or if it was just a fun camera effect that they were doing, honestly. Like, I don't really know how
that's a good question. Yeah, I just interpreted it as, us, the audience, seeing both of them. But that's a fun thought.
Either way, like it felt like a very modern thing to do. She's cool. I love her outfits too.
She's fun.
And now we've name dropped them a bunch of times. Doctor Who. I love that we've like nobody. I don't think anyone has made a comment over the fact that he's called Doctor Who yet this whole time. But
just the combo of Doctor Who and Susan.
Yeah.
I knew about Doctor Who being in this movie long before I really knew anything else about the movie.
Sure.
And timing-wise, it's quite interesting because he not only is called Doctor Who, but he's dressed like the first Doctor with the same like wig and hat and cape.
Yeah.
And at that point, the second Doctor had only just really debuted on British TV. I don't know really if the show was even being broadcast anywhere else. But there was also a couple of Peter Cushing Doctor Who movies, which I believe did get Japanese releases and were, you know, it's a sci-fi movie with Dalek toys. So I presume it had some kind of release in Japan. I feel like it'd be hard to... so I do wonder how much it's like... Because in some subtitles and things, it's like Dr. HU and stuff, but I don't actually think that's what it's meant to be, because like the kind of official name of him seems to be Dr. WH.
That's what I've noticed too. Yeah.
I'm so curious to know if there's any influence.
I couldn't find anything that explicitly said it, but I do wonder if like if this is a Japanese American co-production, if Doctor Who wasn't being broadcast in Japan, then maybe it was because people in America were aware of Doctor Who, and that ended up how it ended up in the movie potentially. But I don't know. Maybe that's too many degrees to like get to that. Like it feels impossible that was a coincidence given his design and the fact that
it does feel impossible.
Yeah, especially because the cartoon version, like they specifically are pivoting away from the cartoon version into something totally different that it feels like it's leaning more into British Doctor Who. So like, yeah. I don't know. Feels impossible.
But it feels like it would be so deeply an inside joke, if anything. Like I can't figure out any reason why they would do it. You know, I was so floored that I had to look up like, well, wait a second, when did Doctor Who start? Because this seems too obvious. And was shocked that this came after.
It's one of those things where like the world wasn't as small as it is now. Like it's the kind of thing where you can imagine hearing the quite evocative title of Doctor Who kind of just like in the cultural zeitgeist, maybe. I really don't know. I mean, there was this thing called Dalek Mania, which was like a sort of short-lived version of Beatlemania, but about Daleks, where the Daleks became more popular than Doctor Who. And so because they were really merchandisable and they got their own comics, and the creator of the Daleks, who was separate to the creator of Doctor Who, was like shipping them around, trying to like get other productions made. So it was just like this idea where like at some point, I'm sure Rankin Bass would have known about Daleks and Doctor Who, to the point where even if it's not inspired, like no one... But when did the cartoon come out? Like, I don't know.
The King Kong show cartoon was in 1966. So it was literally the year before this movie.
Well, and if they're also doing Bond stuff, like Doctor Who is a Bondy name in the sense that like Dr. No is a Bond villain.
That is true. I can see how the King Kong show accidentally names a character Doctor Who because it sounds like a Bond villain. And then when this movie is made, they make the connection that there's also a Doctor Who show and then lean into that. I think that is also possible.
That could be it.
It's just funny because like imagine a movie coming out now and it's just like a completely unrelated movie with a villain named Iron Man or something. Like it's just so funny to think about.
Right, do you know that the UK has its own Dennis the Menace and they have no relation to each other, and they came out the same year? I mean, and they are completely different.
I guess I can see because the rhyme is irresistible, but I had no idea. That is wild.
So funny.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
This character's so funny though, especially largely because like we know that he's like an arch nemesis to freaking Nelson. So like as much as Nelson clearly has a bigger story to him, so does Doctor Who. So like what are Doctor Who's other plots? What else has Doctor Who done to become an international Judas? Like who else has he betrayed and crossed, you know? To the point where it's like not even really that shocking to discover this character, if at all. Like he just is part of the world.
So funny. Yeah. Hideo Yamamoto plays him. We interestingly talked about Yamamoto because he's like the old professor in GMK, like in the future.
Oh.
Yeah. He's Dr. Shinigami in like the original Kamen Rider and sequels and things like that. So
that I did come across. Yeah.
He has had like smaller roles in previous like Toho and like Kurosawa movies, but I think this is probably his first major role in like a Toho movie, I think, like in this big of a role, I believe. So
It's a great role. He's really fun in it. Like I said, I think the dub makes him like 1 degree more cartoonish. I think he obviously looks crazy, but his actual Japanese performance, I think, is a tiny bit more serious. He's got a very interesting, like, you know, far be it from me, a British person, to talk about teeth, and I'm not judging, but there's something going on with like his dentures or something, because he has such an interesting way of like enunciating all of his lines, and his top teeth and his bottom teeth do not match.
I think he has I think he's got dentures on the top, and I think he's got a lot of metal replacement on the bottom. If those are all not, if none of that is costuming, then I think that's the situation.
And I mean it with love. I'm not judging, but I think he, as a villain, it kind of adds to his angles, because he's always trying to like sort of talk over whatever's going on in his mouth.
His American dub voice is Paul Frees, which I just think is worth noting, because that's like, he's a really prolific guy. We mentioned him briefly because Paul Frees did some like Godzilla Raids Again dub stuff, but he's here because he's a Rankin Bass regular. He was like Santa in the Rankin Bass Christmas stuff. So you know, I think he does like all the men in this movie that aren't Rhodes Reason, but this is obviously like the important one.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting. I'm glad I watched the Japanese one, because I do think I enjoy his Japanese performance more than the sort of over the top dub, but I get and appreciate the over the top dub as well. So I'm sort of like, I keep kind of going back and forth on that one.
I have this film. I purchased this film legally, but I also have it on my Plex account, and the kind of auto-generated thumbnail they use for this film is a shot of Doctor Who drinking some wine and rolling back his eyes as if he's like finding everything that he's doing very amusing.
This movie loves like villains just like having a little drink. It's so funny. Constantly they're pouring out beautiful glasses of liquor. As over the top as they are, they're also like often just kind of chill, where they'll just like sit in their room and just chat over and drink a lot. Like, I really like that in this movie.
Yeah, there's a Madame Piranha has to kind of convince everyone that she's not poisoning them, and I mean, you've had villains before, and like I love Nelson, but every villain I feel so far, maybe the Red Bamboo people, but they've kind of had, their villainy has been part of like their day job or like whatever. Doctor Who is a professional supervillain.
Yeah.
With like henchmen and a base. He's not also just like a businessman masquerading as something, or like a disgruntled general of anything. Yeah. It seems like all he does when he finishes his day at work is like go back to his room and have a cackle.
Yeah.
And then like take off his eyebrows and then go to sleep.
I think that's a perfect distinction, honestly, because there is something that sets him apart. And it's not necessarily that he's cartoony, right? Because he's not necessarily more cartoony than other characters we've met inherently. But he is like a cartoon supervillain, and that like that's his vocation, you know, not a job, vocation.
Yeah. No, he's a great villain. He's very fun. This whole cast is fun. That's all I have for the main people. I don't know if there's anyone else that y'all wanted to call out. I know Soichi Hirose, who played King Kong in King Kong vs. Godzilla, has like a little cameo as one of Doctor Who's henchmen, which I think is really fun.
That's fun. I mean, I'm just mentioning it because I literally texted you this like 3 minutes into me watching this, but Yoshifumi Tojima is in every movie. So every movie.
Everything.
He's just always there, whether he says something or not. He's just always around.
Like I said at the start, I kind of like that this film just has a kind of general elevated sci-fi-ness. I know you've obviously had Astro Monster and trips to space and stuff, but I like the kind of hover car.
Oh my God. Hamish. That hover car is like my favorite thing ever. Like I know that Wikizilla always has like their list of like vehicles and weapons and all that sort of stuff, and I usually pay no attention to it. But this hover car is so cool that I immediately like stopped in the middle of the movie and was like, I need to know everything there is to know about this hover car. And there's almost no information about it. I was like, what car did they build around? How did they make this thing? Like, is it on a track? Like, how is it? And there's like so little about this hover car. Anybody who knows anything about this hover car
Yeah.
needs to send it to me because I'm so truly obsessed.
It is like, I think that's such like the perfect kind of like anchor for what you're talking about with the sci-fi-ness of this movie. That's sort of unique because like I feel like from what we've watched Showa era movies up to this point, it's sort of like normal world and then something sci-fi enters it, like aliens showing up, right? That feels different than this movie just having this stuff just casually integrated into it. Like this feels like these are like United Nations like researchers or whatever that somehow have like the power to like just give commands to military people in random scenes, and then have a hover car in their submarine, like fighting a super villain who makes a giant ape robot. Like that is very different from just aliens
with it.
invading,
And
you
I'm
know?
sorry, Hamish, you like said hover car and activated me, and I just yelled at you. But like you probably had something to say about it.
Just that I've never seen a film production more restraint than in this movie, and their choice to not use the Jetsons like noise throughout all of those sequences.
That's so true.
I really like that. I mean, there's lots of
Yeah.
like special effects that I genuinely just really like in this movie. I really enjoy the final fight, but also the final just like climb up Tokyo Tower.
Yes.
Like there was moments when I remembered that Kong and Mechani Kong were like human height people, and it's such a huge structure that they're climbing up. Obviously, I think it's done in parts, but even just the base was like just very impressive to me. And I just liked also that the final confrontation really does involve the main characters in a way that you don't always see. Sometimes, you know, they've got a B plot or something they need to do at the same time, but they're really in the middle of it, which you can't do when the monsters are bigger. And my favorite shot of the film is towards the end when they're like Kong and the characters are in a car running down the side of the harbor to chasing Doctor Who, right? It's such a good shot, and it makes me wish a bit more of the film was like them and Kong as a team going to do stuff, because they achieved that bit really well.
Yeah, I think they spent a little too much time with Kong having been kidnapped.
Yes.
Honestly, because it kind of takes him out of the story.
Yeah, it's
for a long
interesting.
time.
There's a few things we've already mentioned, I think, that make this feel more like a Kong movie than the original one, or more like a Kong movie than a Godzilla movie. And I think you just touched upon another one, a couple of them, Hamish. One, that final confrontation being vertical, I think is so unique to this movie. The fact that the final confrontation is up instead of on sort of a horizontal plane is so cool to me, and so different than anything we've seen before. But two, just coming off of Son of Godzilla, I talked about how, I think I could make an argument for the humans in that movie being far less involved, if barely involved at all. And this is one where I wanted them to be even more integrated, and they're already so integrated. Like it feels so different for them to be literally in the palm of Kong's hand, or for him to be carrying them around, or for them to be directly communicating with Kong in ways that don't always land for me with Godzilla characters. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But this felt like so natural and so like part of what this is meant to be. All my favorite stuff tended to be when Kong was interacting with people, or when they were trying to interact with Kong.
Yeah, like the Kong. I mean, King Kong climbing Tokyo Tower feels like so obvious, like but they couldn't do it because they sized up Kong for King Kong versus Godzilla. So I think that's also part of the reason why this feels like such a quintessential King Kong movie in a way that like the Godzilla one didn't, was because it's like, if you're gonna have King Kong climbs up fucking buildings, climbing up Tokyo Tower, it's just a striking image to see. Like, and the fact that, and I think they recognize that, that's why the whole climax is framed around that. I totally
and it provides
agree.
like slightly different image, even though it's like such an obvious choice, like obvious in the way that like if you didn't do it, I'd be mad. But it also provides like different imagery than the Empire State Building. It provides sort of a different predicament and a different way of movement and all that sort of stuff. So it still ends up feeling very unique and specific to Tokyo, which is great.
Yeah, I think it's really funny that there is one point they explicitly like cut to New York. You see the Statue of Liberty, make it very clear they're in New York, and they're there and they're talking. They're sort of like, yeah, it'd be pretty difficult to keep them in New York. We're not going to bring them to New York. And it's like, yeah, no shit. Like that's so
good.
funny to me.
I like how that scene starts with just a cut to Nelson saying, and that's my report. And it's like, there seems to be a lot of questions because it seems to be a very small report. No, I like the Tokyo Tower obviously gets used in a variety of kaiju movies. It was even used in Mothra, another link to when I was last here.
There you go.
But I think there's a moment in a Gamera movie that is seemingly, I think, equally famous and iconic. But I do think when I think of the Tokyo Tower in kaiju cinema, it's kind of this film I think of as like the one that used it the best.
I think they're using it in a way that would be hard to use better. You know, like it's. I also associate it with Mothra, but I associate it with Mothra in such a different sort of static way, whereas this is much more interactive in the way that they're utilizing it.
Yeah.
I love that Jiro climbs Tokyo Tower. I don't know how tall Tokyo Tower is.
He does
I
get
don't
to do
know
something.
enough about Tokyo Tower, but I love that he just climbed right up there to go help her out.
Yeah, he does get to have that hero moment. He's not completely
That's true.
nothing in the movie. He would not be allowed to play a character like Nelson, who's that kind of cool and suave and flirting and whatever. And I think that's sad. Because I think he'd do it really well.
It is sad because the chemistry that they do get to have in the brief moments they get to have I feel it, you know? Like, it's so funny to see Susan... you know, kind of flanked by these two guys, one of which is supposed to be the actual romantic interest. And it's not subtext, it is the text. And the way that Jiro interacts with her is so different than the way that Nelson interacts with her. And what's funny about that is Nelson is way more physical with her, and it never feels good, and it never feels nice or warm or friendly or anything. And so, like, I don't know if it's because he's constantly sort of like grabbing her and all this sort of stuff that Jiro feels
He's
so
very
much.
infantilizing her.
Exactly. Yeah. He's infantilizing her, and Jiro is treating her like an actual human being that he has a connection to. Yeah. And I just wish that could have been part of a larger, more interesting, more dimensional character who is the sort of suave, storied guy. Because if anyone could do it, Akira Takarada certainly could do it.
I want to briefly ask, what do you think is the titular escape? Because I kept thinking...
First of all, I have so much trouble with this movie because they keep confusing it with King Kong Lives, because they're both King Kong verbs. Like, I'm so paranoid that I've called it King Kong Lives at some point in this recording. But yeah, what is the escape in this movie? I guess escaping
I think it's
from Doctor Who when he's kidnapped, right?
That was my interpretation while I was watching it, but I don't think I was actively thinking about it. I think that was sort of where I was like, oh, he's escaping. but I don't know. What are the other possibilities? Is this a multiple choice?
I don't know. There's a bit where Madame Piranha says that Kong is escaping, but then he doesn't. I don't know. It's just an interesting title to me. I mean... It's
a really interesting title.
I quite like it. It's very evocative. And I you know, King Kong Lives, I kind of like the idea that maybe that is the style of these titles.
Is there something more abstract or like ideal that he's escaping from, more so than like a literal place or person?
He escapes his loneliness because he finds a family that drives a cool red Corvette that he can hang out with.
And then leaves as soon as he can.
I know.
He escapes civilization, kind of perhaps.
That's true.
Escapes humans.
Yeah. He escapes like all the bullshit by leaving at the end of the movie.
Yeah, I mean that is interesting. Like, if it is a more abstract thing, because this movie feels very much like a Kong movie in the sense that it is about Kong and the way that Kong feels and kind of how he's interacting with people and how people sort of come to him and treat him. But King Kong versus Godzilla was very much about kind of that like commercialization and selling of these things that really should not be like fucked with. And this one doesn't. I don't think have sort of like an equivalent to that, because it is way more character driven about the monster.
Yeah.
Unless there's something I'm missing that the two of you kind of can point to that's like that sort of message outside of just the monsters themselves.
I mean, I do think there's a political element of like, countries trying to, basically taking advantage of people for their own, just for the sake of like gaining power. Like they're taking advantage of Kong and then affecting the lives of all these other people just so one country can get access to element X, whatever that does. Cause that'll make them powerful in some way and let them take over the world. Like,
sure.
That's not like a nuanced political commentary that they're making, but I do think the idea of like Kong representing people, regular people who are minding their own business, then being taken advantage of by people in power. I think there's a connection between that, I think, and then like the way Kong is taken advantage of for the sake of capitalism in some ways,
Sure.
It's light though.
Oh yeah. I'm not saying that that's like what the movie is about, but like if you wanted to force a reading out of it, you could wring that out of it,
And I don't think it has to be about anything bigger. I'm just curious if there was something I wasn't focusing on, because I do think Kong's story and the character exploration of Kong is often, if not frequently, just like enough, to be what you pull from a movie. It's also, I know you joke about Kong being horny for Susan, but also like Kong is this sort of solitary figure that can't really connect with people and only really seems to find connection in this one sort of feminine figure who's willing to listen to him and try to communicate with him, as opposed to all the sort of masculine reactions of taking advantage of him or being aggressive towards him. So, that can be read a lot of different ways, but if we're podcasting with Glitterjaw, I think there is certainly a queer reading to pull out of that in how Kong is approached by different people in this movie and who Kong responds to in this movie.
There's like a direct connection between like Kong and then like Minya and son of Godzilla.
Oh, sure.
The only human that he connects with is like the one sort of main woman in the cast, and it's sort of the same way with Kong. Kong, obviously they're doing it because it's like foundational in King Kong to like pick up pretty ladies, but like I think that when you put those two kind of back to back, I think I don't know, you can kind of read something interesting in that it's just like, if you're like a queer outcast, sometimes like the one woman in, surrounded by men is sometimes the one that you can connect with sometimes,
At the very least, interrogating the social expectations of gender, if nothing else,
sure.
Because there are only two sort of primary female characters in this. But most of the men in this do represent like a pretty conventional societal masculine sort of role, outside of maybe Jiro, but Jiro is so confined in what he's allowed to do, and a lot of his focus is on one of those female characters who is the sort of representative and voice of their group to Kong. So
yeah, King Kong gay, it works.
I mean, yeah, hello.
Got his titties out.
It's been misunderstood this whole time.
He in the first movie and comes out of the big doors.
Yeah.
Coming out of the closet. And then goes to Broadway. So it's like
hello.
Climbs the most phallic thing he can find.
Hell yeah.
Wow.
Oh, that rolls. Do we want to end on that note? Is there anything else anyone wants to say before we start wrapping up?
I just think this is fun and nice, and I know you said, Hamish, that, and like I said, I got this sense, so I don't think you were saying anything I wasn't already picking up on, but like it's a bummer that this isn't a story that then spawns a lot of other stories within a series or sort of a continuing timeline of these characters. I mean, I don't necessarily need Rhodes' reason back, but the character of Nelson could have been a fun one, and Susan, to continue intersecting with this character. I mean, maybe you kind of get that from the cartoon, but it sounds like this transformed it quite a bit.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. Mechanic Kong, fucking cool. I love a robot monkey, so.
Oh, yeah.
All I really need in my life. Cool. Predictions.
Oh.
Doug. Okay, I know, we established Mechanic Kong, Mechagodzilla. It makes sense why these are like kind of back to back.
Yeah, but you've alluded to something else that I truly have no idea. Now I'm confused all over again.
Do you, like, because, our parameters were that we were all like for the main feed of Skrionk, we're only doing movies that like in some way fit into like the canon continuity, whatever of Godzilla explicitly, which is why, we're not doing just every single random kaiju movie that Toho made. Right. So why do you think that King Kong Escapes was allowed onto the main feed of this podcast?
Now I'm confused because I thought the reason was, and now you've kind of made me realize that simply having a robot Kong isn't quite the same as having Rodan or Mothra, characters that explicitly end up in a Godzilla movie or intersecting with Godzilla. It's a different thing. So now I kind of have to assume that there is some element of this movie that makes its way into the primary sort of timeline or story. What that is, though, is confusing because I'm not expecting Kong himself to reappear until... Honestly, I wasn't expecting it until the Monsterverse. And I wasn't at all expecting Mechanic-Kong to reappear, but I feel like that's the thing I should point to as what could end up in a Godzilla movie. And I guess if King Kong and Godzilla have crossed paths in some way, it wouldn't be completely wild for once Mechagodzilla to be in the picture, Mechanic-Kong to re-emerge or reappear in the picture. Because I really can't think of anything else. The only other thing I could think of is like Doctor Who somehow ends up being a villain again, and I don't think that's gonna happen. And I don't think we're gonna get these human characters again. So I guess it's the only thing I have left to point at is Mechanic-Kong, unless like the sea serpent is really integral in the movie later.
Cool. That's all I'm going to ask for this movie specifically then, because that kind of covers so many things I would have asked, right?
No one listening could see this, but I was trying so hard not to look at either one of you as I was like working through that.
I was trying hard to not have a reaction to anything you said. Yeah, I will say it'll be a while before your question is answered. Not a long time, not a very long time, but like it's not. Well, it'll be a few months.
Still have no idea. I'll know very soon, at least some of it. But I still, as aware as I am of Mechagodzilla, and as aware as I am of the, I shouldn't say prevalence, but at least prominence of Mechagodzilla, I still don't know anything about how Mechagodzilla emerges, or in what role, or how frequently, or how integral that character's role is. So I don't know if it's even a weird thing to use Mechagodzilla as a platform or launching pad for something else. Like I truly have no idea.
Yeah, sure. Well, that's a great segue, because the other prediction questions I have are for the next movie that we're covering in 2 weeks, which is on the 27th. We're covering Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2 from 1993. We've talked about it before. It's not a sequel to a previous Mechagodzilla movie.
The second movie where they,
So, and this is one of the few cases where you're meeting a common, a major well-known Godzilla foe out of order, just because the first Mechagodzilla movie in the Showa era is like so late into it. There was no way to like time it out where we could do it first. So you are, like many viewers at the time, like in the 90s, maybe this was probably their first exposure to Mechagodzilla, was this movie. This is a Heisei movie. It's the next movie in the Heisei era following Godzilla versus Mothra.
I'm very excited.
So with that in mind, what do you even know about Mechagodzilla?
Literally all I know about Mechagodzilla, and I don't even, this could be wrong, is just that it is a robot version of Godzilla. I have no idea how it comes to be. I don't know if someone builds it. I assume someone builds it. I don't know how it ends up in the path of Godzilla, or if that's where it starts. Like I don't know if it is a foe in the conventional sense or not. Like I don't know if it is built by humans to stop Godzilla, or if Godzilla is utilized to stop Mechagodzilla. Like I don't even know its role in that sense. I just am purely aware that it exists.
This is so exciting. Do you think there's any other kaiju in the movie other than Mechagodzilla and Godzilla?
That's a tough one, particularly because of Heisei hasn't been like a big mess of monsters necessarily. It's been pretty dedicated to its individual sort of character intersection. So I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say that this is Godzilla and Mechagodzilla, and that whatever the problem is, whether it be Godzilla or Mechagodzilla, or I mean, honestly, what's probably the most conventional case would be that Mechagodzilla is built in such a way to stop Godzilla, and then it turns out they lose control of Mechagodzilla, and then Godzilla ends up being a hero. That would be like if I had to come up with what is the most likely sort of conventional storytelling way of introducing this character. That would be my guess. I think the two of them alone are enough to carry.
Okay. And I guess my last question, I know it's hard. I can't just ask, can you predict the plot? Because that's like too general, but do you have any hopes or dreams for what you would like to see or think you might see in this movie, considering this is a follow-up of Godzilla versus Mothra in the Heisei era, which does have continuity and is introducing Mechagodzilla?
This is... Oh man, I have too many movies floating around in my head. This is...
I know. It is hard, isn't it?
Okay, hold on 1 second before I answer this question.
Sure.
Don't search that. You haven't watched that yet. I just am trying not to say something tremendously stupid that I should already know. Okay. I wanted to confirm the only thing that I can really pull from what we've seen at this point from that era is Mickey. And I have gotten the sense since we met her and then saw her again and was bummed that she didn't get utilized more, that she is just going to continue to be a factor in these movies in a way that almost nothing else is. I don't know, again, how that would relate specifically to Mechagodzilla, but I also would have predicted a completely different use of her for Mothra. So I don't think that precludes her from being involved. So I would assume that she's involved. I don't know that I'm predicting anybody else necessarily, unless there's someone I'm just forgetting about. But that's the one big thing I would expect from the era to appear. I'm also now realizing too that I've seen Mecha King Ghidorah, which is not a robot version of Ghidorah. It is a cyborg version of Ghidorah. But I'm not gonna let that shake me. I still think there is a Godzilla and a Mechagodzilla.
Get in the robot, Mickey.
Give me the robot, Mickey. Yeah,
that's not the reference. Doug is making an Evangelion reference.
It would be. Oh, that's so funny.
Get in the robot.
Get in the robot. Got it.
Get in the robot.
It would be.
Yeah. I needed to make sure you didn't embarrass yourself.
That's fine. I'm already embarrassed by having not watched Evangelion. So I will say it'll be really interesting if Mickey is involved and takes on a role similar to what she has in previous ones, because having any sort of connection to Mechagodzilla would be so bizarre after not having a connection to Mothra. But maybe they just kind of bring her back to having a connection with Godzilla. I don't know. Watch, she just won't be in it at all.
Fun Hamish fact, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2 was the last Godzilla film I watched of when I got into it.
Oh.
I found it very hard to find for some reason, just in terms of
interesting.
UK Godzilla film releases were very, very sparse. Yeah. So it was kind of my white whale for a little bit. Why do you think it's called Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2?
I mean, my best understanding, and I don't know that Derek's ever fully confirmed this or not, but like, I think he's just confirmed that it is not a sequel to the first one. My best understanding is that it is truly a marketing naming thing to say that there was, like, this is the second. It's weird because we don't normally name movies this way, but it would be sort of like, trying to think of like an equivalent. It would be like naming the 70s King Kong movie like King Kong 2, because it's not that, but it is a second, like it is King Kong's back. It's King Kong again. It's sort of like using 2 as again.
Or calling Batman Begins Batman 5 or something.
Sure, yeah, like, yeah. Sort of same principle.
Or calling the next Suicide Squad film The Suicide Squad for some reason.
Yeah.
The Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla.
I think it's in that same category where it says less about the movie itself and more about the fact that it is a movie with a title amongst movies with titles.
Yeah. Scream 5 is just Scream, and then Scream 6 is Scream 6. Like, yeah.
The fact that there are 3 movies called Halloween, that's fun.
Movie names are great.
Yep.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Hamish. This was a joy. As always, of course. Tell people where they can find you and everything you're doing.
Well, please find me at Hamish Steele anywhere. Preferably you follow me on Blue Sky. That's where I've successfully completely transferred over to. I don't go on Twitter anymore. But I'm also on Instagram for obligations from publishers. And I don't know. I don't know when I'll be over in the States. I'm going to be at London Comic Con in May, and then obviously Go-Man, Volume 1, Go-Man Champion of Earth, is available for pre-order, hardback, paperback, ebook, whatever your preference, from wherever you get your comics.
Yeah.
And I would really love that to be a big hit, because like I said, I would like this to go on for a while and do my own strange reboots and number conventions.
Yes.
To Go-Man 2 Volume 5. I don't know.
X era, yeah.
The Go-Man.
Yes, that would be really fun. And it's always a pleasure to come onto the show. This is one of my favorite podcasts. The day that my notification comes up is a blessed day, and I usually spend a few different dog walks going because these are long episodes.
As you could tell, sitting in.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
No, that's us.
And so I'm always happy to come back, but I will let you go on without me.
Well,
I don't want to come back for any Godzilla movie. That's my rule. I've decided that.
I kind of love that.
It's a fun
honestly.
position to be in, yeah. Also, Hamish didn't mention it, but Hamish has a Patreon, and it's one of my favorites. I greatly admire how you use your Patreon, and sometimes I get a little sneak peek of Go-Man stuff through that Patreon. So, and Derek already said this, but I can't stress enough that if you listen to this podcast, you will enjoy Go-Man. I think it is a very one-to-one thing. I think it would be foolish for people to listen to this in a dedicated way and not check out Go-Man.
Go-Man even has a robot monkey, which I
It
forgot
does.
to mention.
Yeah.
So it's very connected to this movie. Slightly different character, but...
Well, if you'd like to find other queer creators who talk about media, check out the Glitterjaw Queer Podcast Collective at glitterjaw.com. Follow us on Blue Sky at Glitterjaw and Instagram at GlitterjawPods. For us individually, Doug, where's the best place to find ya?
You can find me all over the place at Ikkybooley, ICKYBOOLEY. You can listen to me on a weekly podcast I do with Derek called Walloping Web Snappers, where we dive into every Spider-Man cartoon ever made, which is why I even remembered that Paul Soules was someone I should mention in this very podcast. Also, I do a bi-monthly podcast called Novel Gaming with my friend Katie, where we catch up on all the books, video games, and sometimes other media we have been enjoying lately. And we dusted off the Falling with Style feed, which was our monthly Pixar marathon podcast where we went through all the Pixar movies, but we recently revitalized it to talk about movies and a little bit of TV from other studios that have depictions of clear, unafraid, and unambiguous queerness in them, largely related to how Disney's often unwilling to do that. So we've got a few episodes out at this point, and a couple episodes on the way. So check that out. They're really fun to make. They're really fun to do. And I've been, if I'm being really honest, putting more work into those than I think I have any other podcasts we've done. So I really would love people to check them out.
Yeah. And when it ties to this podcast, we did a Japanese film, we did Tokyo Godfathers, and then I think by the time this episode has dropped of this podcast, our episode on Power Rangers, Dino Fury and Cosmic Fury also will have come out.
Yes.
So if you like Tokusatsu, lots of gay stuff in that Power Rangers series.
Truly.
Yes. As for me, you can find most places at Derek B. Gale. I have other podcasts. I have Gimmicks, where we look at high concept episodes of television, structure breaking, weird experimental episodes of TV. Hamish has been on a couple of them. The British Doctor Who, an episode of that one, as well as Broad City. I also have Lee Carvalho's Podding Challenge, where we're going through Simpsons video games chronologically, as well as tons of pop culture history and video game history and Simpsons history. Join our Patreon at patreon.com/wallopingwebsnappers. That's, of course, the name of our Spider-Man podcast. But we do bonus stuff for Screonk there as well. That's Godzilla related. So join there if you'd like to support us. Check out our Discord. There's a link to that in the show notes. We do have a Screonk channel. If you want to chat about Godzilla in our podcast, email us at screonkpodcast@gmail.com. Rate, review, and subscribe on all your podcast platforms. And join us on April 27th as we return to the Heisei era for another big old robot in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2.
I'm excited. See ya.
See ya.
Bye.